And that's the last slide. Okay. Awesome. Hello, hello, everyone. I'll just jump in. Hi, everyone. My name is Charley Haley. I'm a consultant, and I've been working with ESIP for probably 3.5 to 4 years now. And I've been creating a workshop, 2 workshops a year for each one of the meetings. All of the workshops are unique. They're really based on reading. They're really influenced on your proposals, actually. I read through all the proposals and just kind of get a sense for, like, what are the outcomes you're looking to get? What are the outcomes? And then I start thinking in my mind, like, what structures might support the outcomes that you want to get. I also have conversations with ESIP staff. And this year, since Megan wasn't around, I chatted with Susan. And the theme for today is influenced by some of the conversations that she and I had, where we were talking about that wonderful video that Allison helped bring together for the ESIP website, where there are all these different ESIP voices of the community that's talking about ESIP and ESIP meetings. And overwhelmingly, they talk about a place to connect. They talk about where we meet to get things done. We go to ESIP meetings because we want to get things done. And so that's one of the main influences for today's theme. It's going to be a little bit different than other workshops. This also made me think about where we go to get things done. I also think about how can we get more of that? How can we be more productive in our meetings? And one of the things in past workshops, we focused on really tailoring, thinking about your audience and participants and what are their needs? What are they looking for in your session? I'm kind of going to flip it on this workshop and go, how can you get more of what you need from the time that you're putting together your session? I think a lot of times we leave a lot of value on the table that we don't leverage from bringing together a group of very diverse thinkers, people with different perspectives, with very different backgrounds. And it makes me think about there's a particular structure I've used with groups of all stripes when I'm working with them. And it's one in which we ask, it could be all kind of numbers, and the room could have hundreds of people in it, right? So it's not limited to a small group. It's called, in Liberating Structures, it's called Troika Consulting or Caravan Consulting. And it's where we ask participants to volunteer if they have a challenge that they actually would like some consultation on. And it's not with people that are close to the problem. They don't know everything about the challenge. And then we put them in small groups. And people then get in little caravan pods and go around maybe 15 or 20 minutes with each person to give them consultation. And they don't have to, the person that needs the consultation, that has the challenge, they don't have to go into a lot of explanation about their challenge. They briefly describe what they want, what kind of consultation they want, and they hear from this group of diverse people that are loosely connected to the challenge in some way, if at all. What we hear from that, I mean, every single time people are shocked at what great advice they get, what great ideas that they are going to go back and try that they would have never thought of on their own. And so that just makes me think of, a lot of times we think that we've got challenges and that the people in the room aren't the right people in the room. They aren't the ones that know the most about our challenge, or they don't know enough about our challenge in order to get help from them. And so today's session is about asking you to question that a little bit. And we're going to work through some examples. I'm going to talk through some examples of that to let you know more about what I'm talking about. Okay, so next slide. So I am just curious before we jump into this. I want to know, like, how many meetings, maybe you can just pop it into chat. Like, how many ESIP meetings have you attended, and maybe a comma, and like, how many sessions have you organized for ESIP? And if we have some first timers here, maybe put in zeros for that. Oh. We have a good mix here of wow. Yes. Um, so this is great. We have a very good mix here. I'm wondering if we could just hear from maybe one or two people on, the ones that have attended lots of ESIP meetings. I'm just curious, like, what has you continue to come back to ESIP meetings? Why? Why do you keep showing up over and over again? Maybe I'll pick on someone. Can I pick on Leslie?
Of course you can pick on me. I was going to try to hide and chat. Let's see. Hello, everyone. I'll press return. No matter how many ESIPs I attend, I always learn something new and cool.
Yes, yes. Carolina, I know that you've been the last several meetings, especially the last one, you're really embracing some of the concepts that we are trying to show and demonstrate in our workshops. You're taking them on. Like, why are you keep showing up for ESIP meetings, and what has you be brave and courageous and try some of these different methods to interact more with the participants in your session?
Yeah, so I mean, personally, I keep showing up because like I get so much out of it. Just connecting with other people working on the same types of issues and, seeing parallels and just learning different approaches from people in different institutions. It's just like invaluable. But then we keep doing the sessions because we also want to, provide a platform for that for other people. And then like lately, I think Charley, what you were pointing out is we've been doing a lot of like cross-cluster collaborations. So that's been, yeah, really rewarding as well. And we took on like 3 sessions last meeting. So yeah, I think did that answer? I think that answered the question.
Yeah.
Close enough.
And thank you. And thank you for trying, just being so open and trying some of these different methods of engagement.
Yeah, we've learned a lot in like these sessions. I also keep coming back to these session planning meetings because yeah, they're also really helpful. So thanks.
Yeah. And I think Tyler is talking about, the community of focused scientists and developers, like finding at ESIP meetings, people with like interest, like minds. Okay, next slide. I want to talk about, so what Megan likes to do is get the session logistics and room management out of the way in the beginning. If you have any questions about those kind of things, we want to get those answered. We've got Allison and Susan here that can answer those. After that, that'll take maybe 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes to step through some of those and get your questions answered. We'll jump right into like why, what does it look like to leverage the diverse expertise in your room to move work forward? In that theme, we'll talk about some design tips on how you might do it and the tools and resources that we've shared in past workshops. And then I'll just talk a little bit about the design consultations. If you've never worked with me, what that would look like, why you would want to do it. So that's what we're going to talk about in our time together. Okay, yes, and Allison is, yes, got it. Okay, next slide. Logistics. So this is my first time of offering a session myself. And so because I'm on that side of things, I am seeing what you guys are receiving. And I got a wonderful detailed email from Allison on Monday about my session that has all of this information in it. The full session guidance. She had provided the links. The links are also here in these slides that I've added to the chat. The full session guidance, I think, is like 9 pages. And it's not necessarily, it's like just everything you want to know, like A to Z, all of the support and help to help you get the most out of your session. And then it's like, then requesting each session, you're able to request 1 complimentary speaker registration, but you must do so by June the 22nd. And they're looking that the speaker must be someone that that's never attended an ESIP meeting before. There is a folder that they have created for you, just for your session, for you to upload any kind of material, slide decks that you're going to need in your session. And also there's a document in there, a room notes document. That document is linked to Sketch. And that's where you'll build your agenda. People can sign up, everything that you need for your session. If you can put it into your room doc, and that is included in Sketch, and then all your participants can have everything at their fingertips at that point. Let's see. And Susan and Allison, if you have any more to add to this, please jump in. I know that I'm probably not doing a great job covering these things because I usually rely on Megan to do that. But if I'm leaving out anything, please let me know. And
you're doing great. You're doing great.
Yes, thank you. And then what I read in the notes was that we can, in Sketch, we can update our own descriptions, but everything else, like if the speakers change, anything that needs to be changed to Sketch except for the description, you need to email the staff at esipfed.org so that they can do that for you. If you have any other needs like paper and pens, a lot of sessions use Slido. I think it's awesome that ESIP provides Slido to us. And if you've never used it, it's a polling tool, and we'll talk just briefly about that later. But you need to request that, and then they can work with you on that. The only thing that I thought about this is some sessions need flip charts. I know in the past, and you guys said you don't provide flip charts, is that each session needs to do that? Is that also true this year?
Actually, I do think we have flip charts, right, Susan?
Yeah, we can have them if that's something you want. What I would say with flip charts is think, and Charley will go into this, think about what your online participants are going to be seeing if in room you're using a flip chart. Right. So how would you replicate a flip chart in a a virtual sense, and there are tools out there. And if you need flip charts, we just need to know enough in advance so that we can get them in Asheville when we get there for you.
Awesome. Okay, next slide. Room management. What we want to say about that is that ESIP is going to provide, there will be a community fellow for each room, each session. ESIP staff member will be by, but the community fellow is mainly there to provide the computer and connect you to Zoom. They're not there necessarily if you want to use breakout rooms or to facilitate the virtual conversations. You will need to provide, your MC moderator facilitator for in the room and Zoom virtual spaces yourself. Let's see. And if there's any kind of note taking that you want to do. Please be in the room about 30 minutes prior. Not necessarily you need to stay in there the whole time, but you need to just arrive in the room, make sure the equipment's working, talk to your it's a great time to huddle with your co-organizers, the co-host, your speakers, make sure you can pull up all the slide decks, everything's in the folders, just, that structuring and to make sure that everything runs smoothly when the session starts. Okay, next slide. The room, just a word about the room notes doc. Actually, I think I pretty much already said it. This is what it looks like. ESIP has already taken what you wrote in your proposal and populated the description part of it. And all you'll need to do is maybe you want to add your speakers down at the bottom of the room, the document. This is like a 2-pager so far. You add your speakers, any kind of pre-reading, anything that think creatively about using this room document. I actually have seen people use the room document to capture feedback from small breakout groups in real time in their document so that at the end of your session, you know who's been there, everything is there. It's for your use and to benefit you and also the participants to go back and maybe they want to go, who was it that I talked to in the session? And I can't remember their name. So they might, if you remember to get people to sign in attendance at the beginning, they can go back and refer to that and maybe make that connection. Next slide. Okay, so why is it that ESIP invests in session design training? I actually don't know of another group that does this. So why is it that they're investing in it? ESIP is about, when we saw if you've watched that video, there's a lot of talk about, and we saw it here in the chat, there's a lot of talk about, we go to ESIP meetings to get work done, but to make connections and to meet it's a lot of meeting like minds, getting work done, right? So ESIP is about structuring things so that they're creating an environment so that these connections can be made. So it builds and strengthens the connections across the ESIP community. The more that they are helping you make connections, the better it is for the entire community. It supports the work that is being done. If we can do that in sessions, now the time together is even more productive. I know whenever I go to sessions and I'm sitting there, if it's one in which they're engaging me as a participant, or I have an opportunity to work in small groups or talk to other participants, I've had an opportunity maybe to contribute some way to the work being done. It just makes the sessions more enjoyable. I find that they love to be able to contribute to other people, but we often are not asked for that. And I think we're hungry for it. We just don't know we're hungry for it until after it happens. And then we go, wow, I really enjoyed that session. And it really makes an imprint where it makes it easier to remember what you talked about. Next, unless you, Susan and Allison, have more to say about why ESIP is investing in the sessions, do you have any more to add to that?
Not on my end.
Okay, because I made that up on my own and didn't consult you, so it's good that I did a pretty good job. This is a slide that Megan likes to show what's different about ESIP meetings. This particular triangle is one in which a couple of years ago, Megan, Allison, and myself worked at putting it together. And I think this time I want to revisit, what does this triangle represent? Because it's a lot going on here and it's not easy to pick it out just in first glancing. So when you read over the ESIP proposals from year to year, what stands out is there are sessions where they're represented, say, at the top of this triangle, where it is mainly they're informational sessions. They're there to there's talks, panel discussion, lightning talks, but the majority of the outcome of that session, what we hope to get is more to influence and to shift and expand the participants' thinking. And it's a longer horizon. If you're the organizer of that session and you're wanting to showcase the state of the art, perhaps it's something that you did and you want to share how you did things. These sessions, you are hoping that the information or the experience that you are sharing, that some nuggets, the participants are walking away with something that will benefit their work, but you can't know how or when it might shift their thinking or the way that they do things. It's much longer horizon, right? It's more about showcasing something. As we move down on this triangle towards the bottom, there's a lot of sessions that are from collaboration clusters, for instance. They're working sessions. They want to talk about perhaps a guide, an info, something that they're creating. I'm thinking about like the AI readiness, a checklist, and it's like you want to get feedback on the work that's been done in the collaboration cluster over the last 6 months. And you're either wanting to get feedback, or it's like, hey, now we've got this, we need to test what we've done with the broader community. Maybe we need use cases. So these sessions are going to be more interactive with participants, and you're looking the outcome and the timelines, like you're looking to immediately use whatever you're learning in the sessions. And then there's a few sessions where there are new ideas or new things that are being showcased at an ESIP meeting that you're wanting to see. Is anyone else interested in this? Is there juice around this? Should we start up a collaboration cluster? I'm thinking about, like at the Pittsburgh meeting, for instance, was the first time that the Open Science Cluster presented their work, and they wanted to see, is there, from the community, should this cluster exist? Do you want to invest in this? Remember last year at the Burlington meeting, this new one emerged of IT rants and raves that has really gotten a lot of traction. And so it's like in these newer offerings where you're kind of testing to see, is this something the community wants to invest in? Because if people don't show up, then there's no need to continue to offer it. But you're wanting to do more interaction with the participants in your session so that they can get a taste of whether or not this fits with something they want to spend time on. Let's see, what else do I want to say about this? Okay, so let's see, what I want to say is, where is my notes? Then what this makes me think of when I think of these meetings, it makes me think of so if I think about like the top half of this, in the ESIP meeting, like, can we start moving things that are purely more informative? And like, I'm thinking, are we missing an opportunity to get more value out of our sessions? I don't think that I think there's a place, there's no right or wrong place to be on here. Now on this, I think a good, healthy environment is to have some of everything. But I'm thinking about, sometimes we're not even asked, we don't even think about whether or not participants could contribute to our work. And this makes me think of an example of a group that I've been following their work for quite some time. They do phenomenal work. They are creating a lot of different data products that will impact a lot of different disciplines. But every opportunity that they have to be public facing, I see that they typically use a structure which falls more in the top half of this pyramid, right? Which is more about presenting, let's talk about each one of our data products and then do an open Q&A. And I keep thinking every time I see this, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they could they gather such a large gathering of diverse people and backgrounds and experiences. I wonder if they could get more value out of their time of being public facing. So I'm thinking, so this is the way a meeting designer, this is the way I think. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Not everyone in the room probably cares about every product, so they don't need to hear the details of every product. What would it be like, for example, to have stations around the room for each product where people could choose which station they want to go to? And by the way, it also turns out that this group, they need to find out who's using their products. What are their needs? What are the decisions that are made by their products? They need to start measuring the impact of their work, how valuable it is to others. It's an opportunity to talk to users that are using the products that you, and collect user stories right there. Maybe if in smaller groups, you can start interviewing, like we're talking about the product, but then you can start meeting and forming relationships with people that are using the products, and you can find out more about, well, what would prevent you from using this product? How might we help that? So it's a way to connect and get feedback with people that you care about, that know something about what you need. So I just am like going, okay, what if more of us fall in that category, but we've never been asked to think this way before? So that's kind of where I'm going with this. And so the next slide. So the design challenge here is, I want to take a pause here and just go, okay, so think about the work that your session is representing. Are there places that could benefit from the experiences of people that are going to be in your session that aren't as close to the work as you are? There might be users, or they are connected to users, or they just have different thoughts and ideas. Like the example I gave at the very beginning, where they just are different. So therefore, they're going to be able to think a little bit maybe out of the box and think of ways that you couldn't have thought. So could you get more value from your session by inviting participants to contribute in some way? Don't think about how that would happen yet. We'll talk about that. But just ask yourself, is there something that the participants, not knowing who they're going to be, but knowing they're going to have a wide range of experiences, is it something that they might know that you want to know, where you could get more value out of your session if you asked? So I just want to give you like a minute to kind of ponder that. And if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand or just ask, come off mic and ask about what I'm inviting you to consider here. Okay, next slide. So just another way to look at that. So instead of from going from the top of the pyramid, can we shift things, nudge things a little bit more? Some sessions where we're inviting more participation. Another way to look at that is that sessions where talks are, say, taking up greater than 80%. I don't know, a 90-minute session, that's like leaving like 10 or 15 minutes or so for questions. I'm calling these like an eco cycle. This is like where we're sowing seeds, we're gestating, and we're hoping some of the things that we're sharing is going to be beneficial to the participants, right? So can we move more things from the left over to where the right, where we're birthing, growing, maturing work, we're coming to ESIP to get work done, where we're interacting with the participants. So just kind of a slightly different graphic to think about this. Okay, next slide. So we've talked a little bit about why you would want to do that, but how? Let's get into some of the how. And just to talk about that triangle diagram, it's most sessions don't fall at one of the points, right? They fall in different places. Like the way to use that, if you were to think about it, is you take your pen and where would you put it within that triangle, right? A lot of sessions are doing, but like they're informing. They need to inform and give talks just to let people know what they need to know and to talk, to give feedback, but they're also asking for feedback also, right? And they may also be hoping to get more participation and others to join the collaboration cluster. So you could fall anywhere in this triangle. Okay, so now let's look at how. So if you have multiple speakers, something we've talked about in past workshops is please try to say out loud and show participants how all of these speakers are connected to the theme that you're going, the purpose of the session. And the best times I've seen this is when there was a moderator that after every lightning talk or every speaker, the moderator in between in the transitional space actually spoke to, hey, this person said this, and the next one, they actually made that transition for the participants. They spoke to how all of the messages from the speakers were connected, how all the pieces fit together. They didn't just leave that unsaid, then that puts it off onto the participants to try to do that in their head. They actually did that weaving and did it out loud, and it really made for wonderful sessions that have multiple speakers, especially if you have more than, I would say, 3. It's just a lot for the participants to hold in their head. How do all of these connect? So help them by doing that for them. Another way to do this is to facilitate what I call the transition spaces. Instead of just having one speaker after another, engage the participants in a reflective question. Like some might be like, you might even just have a slide up saying in between as the speakers are coming, like, how do you see using this information? What about this is important to you in your work? What connections are you seeing to your work? How could we take this work and apply it to our challenge as generic questions? So it's like, it's something about just being asked as a participant to think about these things that has me think about those things. Otherwise, I may not be doing that. I may be thinking about my email or something. So it's something about tending to the transitional spaces that's very helpful. You could also use Slido to ask questions and to upvote, keep track of those. Let's see. And a lot of times I see a string of speakers, and then at the end we do I call an open Q&A, which we then say, has anyone got any questions? And that's okay. When I go, it's okay, but it really limits the contribution. And why I'm saying that is because usually the people that are the first ones to say are really comfortable speaking in a group. Maybe maybe they're experts in that field and they already have put a lot of thought into it. And so they're speaking from experience. They're more comfortable speaking in front of a group because of that experience, but you're not actually hearing the common question, like what's a question that everyone has in the room? Maybe they're not new, maybe they're new to this theme. So it's like, how do you tap the question space of everyone in the room? And one way to do that is before you open it up for questions, is to put participants into trios or quads just to discuss their questions with each other. And then it's something about also being able to say your question out loud and hear yourself, see how it's received with 2 or 3 other people. And also maybe in listening to other questions, I can deepen questions. So it's something about being able to just have a little bit of space to share my question and hear others, that it makes people more brave to ask questions in a group, but also shapes the questions so that you actually get better questions when you finally do open it up to a group. Let's see, you can then pair that with Slido. You could, let's see. I think what I'm trying to say here is that tapping the intelligence of your room, the experience and diversity intelligence of the room, all voices, it takes more time. It's not as much as if you do it using these structures, it's not as much as actually hearing everyone speak, but everyone gets to have a say and contribute even if we don't hear it out loud by using these structures. Let's see. So just the design tip, if you're going to have a session like this, is just think about saving the benefit for the participants of processing, helping them process and do some collective sense making in your session versus leaving them to do that when they leave your session on their own, because chances are they're going to forget. They're not going to think about doing that unless they happen to bump into someone and have a conversation about that. So save some time in session to do that. It's really, really beneficial. I think you'll be surprised how beneficial it is. Next slide. This is a slide from a past workshop we did. So we did a workshop that was just on using these tools. It goes into a lot of detail if you've never used Slido, like all the different options in Slido. It's more than just polling. You can do so much with it. You can go back and look at, there's a link there for that workshop content, or there's lots of stuff on YouTube about all those things. Slido is just awesome. So I would take advantage of that. Also, and with the virtual, not wanting to forget about the virtual participants, there's ways to do that, to include them. You can use Google Docs, Jamboards, or slides that people virtually and in the room can contribute to that, and we can then read it and do sense making all together. There's ways to do that. And if you don't know how to do that, please reach out to me and I'll be glad to help you think through those things. Next slide. So utilizing the small group discussions, I'm a big fan of putting people in small groups for so many reasons. So if we go back to the example I gave of the group that I was saying that is creating all these data products, they're a phenomenal group, but then when they go to the public, their go-to structure is about, let's share all that we're doing, which is awesome. I mean, their sessions are always great, but it's like rethinking how you could do that and get more value, where you're going to be utilizing small group discussions. And by creating, one way you can do this is to create little workstations around the room. I saw Douglas do this last year for AI. I think it was an AI readiness session. He utilized, he created like little stations around the room with flip charts. So it was like all stations, in that particular example, all stations were doing the same thing and having the same discussions, but we were all mixed, right? We just equally distributed ourselves amongst the stations, and then we were all processing and thinking about the same things. Another option is that each station could be different. Something different. And then you would invite participants to go to the station where you feel like you can make the most contribution. You have most to say about that. And maybe you could even do multiple rounds where you then, on a second round, you go to the second station that you feel like you can make the most contribution. And maybe we build upon the work done at the first round and take it a little bit further on the second round. There's all kind of ways to do that. And making sure that we're either working on the flip charts or in Google Docs, Jamboards, flip chart, and slides, whatever way, there's ways to do that, to capture what's happening in the discussions for a report out. And if your session and you're particularly wanting feedback, and I would say I love the small group discussions for getting feedback. It's something about going to a smaller, working in pods, and you can talk things out and and it just helps you get clearer on the feedback that you're giving. So my advice on that is be as specific as you can about what would make good feedback. What would be useful to get if you can provide some kind of template. If you go into breakout little pods, you might have a organizer or a co-host that goes into each one of those that then can kind of pull out the kind of feedback, maybe do a little interview and give it an example of what it would be like, what kind of feedback you're looking for, so people know how to give you what you're looking for. Let's see. The design tip here is when you're thinking about putting people into small groups, and you're going, how much time do I give? Think about, okay, depending on the size, you want to allow like 2 minutes for each person to share their thoughts with each other, and a little bit of time for, we've listened to everyone's thoughts, do a little processing. So that's how you kind of figure out how much time to allocate for breakouts. That's what I do. Next slide. And just, we've talked about this, but don't forget to attend to the virtual participants, to think about what their experience is going to be. For most of the things that I'm recommending, even things that are really highly interactive, there's ways to mirror that in the virtual space or to include the virtual participants. There's ways to do that, and just reach out and ask for help to think through how to do that. It just may require more virtual host. At this point, you might be thinking, oh, this is a lot. So I don't know how to do this. I don't know if I want to do it. So to soothe your anxiety, I'm offering my calendar. I've got an online calendar. You can go to that. You can, to request a design consultation. Your whole co-hosting team can show up, and we can just talk through things. And sometimes it's a matter of me just asking questions that your co-hosting team is talking about that helps you get clear about and focused about what you want to do. Sometimes I come up with, oh, well, that reminds me of this structure. Would you think about using that? That happened with Carolina last time, where I'm like, this kind of reminds me of what, so what, now what? Which they ended up then having 3 sessions that kind of went along the what, so what, now what, with the last session being, okay, we've had these 2 sessions, now what, right? So there's open office hours you can jump into. There's previous workshop recordings that Allison has included at the bottom of that session guide doc. Let's see. And then I think we just have the final slide, right? Oh, I forgot about this. Storyboarding. So when I design sessions, I use a storyboard, and I think Carolina used that last time. I know I know that someone showed up on a design consultation call last year, and they showed up with their storyboard. There's a generic storyboard at the bottom. It's kind of filled in with a little bit about, like, hey, well, suggestions like in the beginning, welcome, set a context. You might want to do a little baseline. Find out through Slido or something, like, who's in the room? What do they care about? What questions do they have? So the generic storyboard offers like a little template, a boilerplate with the beginning, how to start and close the session, making sure that you thank people and tell them, what are you going to do with the information? How can they join your group? How do they reach out and connect with you? And then blank spaces for you to fill it in. This particular storyboard, which is probably too small to see in this format here, is one where I work with an organizer 2 years ago, and they were very bold. They tried 2 or 3 structures to work with participants that were very courageous, incredibly interactive. But what I want to show, and you can just see the details, right? So for each activity, there were bullets in there about what do we want to say? What happens in the storyboard, and why I am such an advocate for them, is it helps you really see how much time you're going to need for each thing. I think I heard Carolina say in some of our conversations, like, whoa, I didn't know this would take so much time. Carolina, do you want to say something about the storyboard?
Yeah, I do. Like, it was so helpful and eye-opening that, yes, once you like lay it all out and put like the actual number of minutes, all the transitions in there, like it's a totally different picture than you think you have, like, without doing that exercise. So highly recommend. I don't think we would have been able to do it without the storyboards. So thanks.
Yes. And so, in the example that I'm given here, it's got like highlighted how it helps you think out, like working with the virtual participants. This is actually what I'm going to type in to chat and paste into chat. And that way, whoever's helping with the virtual facilitation can just go to that storyboard and cut and paste from the storyboard into chat. It just is like, helps you think out minute by minute, like what you can say. what you can get accomplished in that time frame. I've also got, like I've written out in this particular example, who's saying what, who talks when are we interacting with participants? What is the structure? We're doing a presentation. What are we doing when? Yes. Yeah, and it's something about the storyboard so it helps keep me on schedule. If I have that storyboard and I know how much slack time I have, then I know that I can't just let a speaker go over a lot of times. I might need to try to urge them to wrap things up versus just letting them go, right? So it helps me make decisions in real time. And it somehow helps me relax. When things go sideways, I know because I've written things out here that I know how much space I have to work with. And let's see, final slide. Oh, it's not the final slide. A shameless plug for my session that I am co-hosting with the dynamic and fun Elizabeth Joyner. We are putting together a session that is purely about these structures, not just the ones we talked about today, not those, but structures on how to work with a lot of people in the room to get input. After ESIP meetings, I've had people that I've met, hosts, actually contact me afterwards, and workshops that they're going to offer and wanting me to look at how can that be more interactive. And I've offered them more structures. And so I want to bring in some of these inclusive collaborative structures to demonstrate them so that you can get a taste of what more is there out there? How can you work with people in a lot of people in a more collaborative way to get work done in a productive manner? Okay, so I really do think I'm at the end now. So does link to my Calendly and also the open office hours are going to be Wednesday, June the 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and Monday, the 1st of July at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And with that, we've got, I'm wondering if anybody had any, did anyone go, hey, I'd like to bring more of these, get more value from my session and include more voices and moving the work forward. But I don't quite know if I can do that or how to do that. Would anybody want to share thoughts about that? Or any question?
Maybe first we could pause for a second and just say thank you, Charley. It's always exciting to see the different ways that we can rethink our sessions. And I know we're getting close to the top of the hour, so I'm sure folks have to run. We will record everything and I will share this out with folks. And so if you do end up thinking of questions down the road, we've got those open office hours with Charley. She's got her design consultation Calendly link, and there's also, you can email all of us on the ESIP staff as well. But if anybody wants to talk through stuff today, we are here for you.
Yeah. Jason, do you have, I don't think I've met you before. Hello.
Hi. I'm with Element 84, and I'm leading the AI/ML for search and discovery session. I want to have participation, and I'm struggling with the number of people I've talked to about speaking at my session and then having time for anything else other than a bunch of 15-minute talks. So that's a challenge, but I would like to get engagement from participants. And I'm thinking about, like, is there Q&A beforehand, send out things to people ahead of time? But I know most people may pick just at the spur of moment, like to go to the session. But I'm hoping that after the session too, as people are around, they can talk about things as well.
Yes, yes. When, and the number of, tell me a little bit of, well, briefly, like the speakers that you have, is there a reason for each speaker? Like, oh, we need to talk about that. We need to talk about all these parts kind of thing. Is that?
There's a bit of that. There's people who I see were doing interesting things in the area that we want to talk about. And I am planning on getting like, what do you want to talk about for each of your pieces, and make sure that they're not overlap, because I don't want two people talking about the same thing unless they're doing it from like different perspectives on it. And my main goal is I want to get people to come away with this idea of, oh, this is what's possible now. And then mainly like that it goes beyond the straight, like, let me ask a question to ChatGPT, and that they can be creative in applying these to different solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, for that kind of session, I really recommend, and I know it's kind of hard to do, but if you could have like a little huddle with many of your speakers beforehand, get them all on the same call, right? And have them talk about what they're going to present so they can hear each other and see, is there any overlap? Oh, if you're going to talk about that, I can talk about this, right? So have them kind of co-shape what they're going to cover in that session with you. You may have to help them, guide them a little bit, but that way they are seeing how everything, all of what they're wanting to say hooks together. You're asking them to help you do that, right? Make sense of it.
Yes.
And then yeah, I would definitely have like a Slido or some type of reflective, if you don't have much time, but something, do you want where you are asking people, how are they going to use this in their work? Even if you don't hear from them, maybe in Slido, and maybe they can type it in, but something where you're actually asking them to think about that, which is that sense-making component that I talked about.
Interesting. Okay. I hadn't seen Slido before, and I saw you mention it. That looks like a good tool to use. So people ask questions in the middle of the presentations, and if I'm the moderator, I can, ask them about that, like at the end or things like that.
Yeah, and there's a way also that people can upvote questions like, oh, we like that question. So the ones and that kind of rises to the top. So you're answering the questions that most people are interested in. There's word cloud you can do where they type in one word and you can see things. There's a place where people can actually respond to questions and do more of the long format, writing in things. What else am I thinking? They're polling who's in the room that has experience with this, that it's their first time. So I'm doing a Slido to kind of baseline the experience in the room for your session might be interesting. Like, who's tried foundational models, or they've not used this before, or whatever it might be, right? Yeah. Ping.
Thank you. I really appreciate the information. I have something I really try hard, and I'm still having trouble to decide which one. So my session, it's going to be both informational and feedback. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to have a minimum 25 minutes for discussion. And I have 4 presentation, which represents different perspective. I'm trying to fit another one in there. So it's going to be either 4 presentation for 10 minutes or 5 for 8 minutes, with more risk to go longer because the changing slides and all that stuff. So I'd like to get your take on that, and especially, do you feel for 8 minutes talk, or it should be enough to get give us some basic information from one perspective?
You know, that it really depends on, sometimes that's plenty. And it really depends on this situation. So I'd have to, we've got a meeting on Tuesday, right?
Yes,
Next Tuesday. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
So
that
we can talk in more detail. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's like I would ask myself how critical to what you want the outcome of your session, how critical it is to add another person in there. Yeah, we'll talk about this on Tuesday. I want to see exactly what it is. I want to dive deeper into what you're wanting the outcomes to be and think about the participants,
Great.
what their
That
experience,
sounds great.
what's going to help
Yeah. Mhm. Okay.
them. Okay, I think unless we have any more questions, one thing I forgot to say, Allison, is that I forgot to push the open space that's going to happen on Thursday is a way to move conversations that happen in the in the sessions to go deeper with something. And I know like Amy has taken advantage of that. Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah, and maybe just a quick summary real quick for anybody who's unfamiliar with the ESIP meeting setup. We have what's called an unconference on Thursday. And so everyone pitches their ideas the day of, and then we have two back-to-back 45-minute kind of lightning sessions. And so it allows for conversations that naturally come up in the meeting to kind of take place, which is great.
Yeah.
And yes, Amy has rocked those before, as well as like using them to draw some of the key ideas from the sessions and then using the unconference to develop them more.
Yeah, and I remember at that Pittsburgh meeting where we created that big mind map with 75 people in the room for open science. And we then did the unconference, which I call open space. It's the same thing. Around that, where we did a deep dive on each one of those the areas that got highlighted, the clusters that got highlighted in the mind map, and making sense around those. So that was great. Okay, I think we're good, unless someone else has questions. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank
And
you.
everyone, don't be afraid to use these resources. We want to make them available to you.